Bucs fans are starting to be livid at this after just a really rough stretch of 3 games where we just aren't winning anything and have been recently getting our butts kicked defensively. A lot of questions are starting to be asked about the strategy from Jason Licht, our GM, and what we should be doing in the future to kind of get us out of this hole that we've put ourselves in. I'm Sebastian, the Buccaneers Digest. Welcome back, everybody. This is a video topic that has been requested, but also it's just kind of an interesting thing to talk about because I mean, most Bucs fans are Jason Licht, Glazers. As they should be. We should be praising him and really just shouting him out at every opportunity that we can because this guy. His drafting ability is off the charts, especially recently, and but there are some things that are worth critiquing. There is a reason why he's not known to be the best GM in football. Just I'd put him close to the top five. I just think like the Rams, like the Eagles, I think they manage their teams a bit better. They take risks where Jason doesn't seem too keen on the risk factor, and I think it's worth talking about. Just worth noting. Some people were kind of starting discussions around Jason after the game against the Rams, and I think just the comparison and just the disparity in how the Rams clearly like probably the best team in football right now, and the Bucs didn't even look like they deserved to be in the same room with them or same field, I should say. Listen, Super Bowl year we lost 38-3 to the Saints. We beat them in the playoffs, but that was Tom Brady. Just a different kind of. Hold on, sorry. And I think it's worth noting just Todd and Bruce, very different coaches. I think a lot of people say, "Oh, I miss Bruce Arians." I'm not sure if that's necessarily fair. I do think Bruce is probably a better coach. Obviously, we won the Super Bowl with him. But I do think there are a lot more circumstances with Bruce and with Todd that are worth noting, and we'll talk about that in a second. But make sure to subscribe, make sure to comment, make sure to do all that stuff. It would mean a ton to me and the channel. We're making our way to 3,000 subscribers, so let's just jump right into it. I think we got some really cool stuff to talk about. First things first. This was like an interesting note here. So Matthew Hewitt, he does a lot of like Bucs stuff on Twitter. He said it's crazy how different Jason Licht and Howie Roseman's approaches are. One won't make a single trade because he values picking his own guys and developing them. The other doesn't care about his picks and gets established players. Both are excellent GMs, but have very different ways of doing things. Listen, Howie gets criticized for different stuff, but overall it feels like he's always making moves, always constantly trying to improve, and it doesn't feel like. Listen, he's an excellent drafter too, but also he doesn't get too scared of using his picks to go get known commodities, which is something that Jason Licht. It just almost seems like it goes against his philosophy, and it's getting a little frustrating for us. I mean, we keep talking about like these trades that we can make midseason or in the off season or whatever, and they never seem to come to fruition. So listen, as good of a drafter as Jason is, he also has his flaws there. Linebacking, I don't know. I just really, it scares me a little bit, and I think people are starting to take notice. This is another tweet that I thought was interesting that like Baker Mayfield, franchise QB, Emeka Egbuka is the franchise wide receiver 1. Tristan Wirfs is the offensive line anchor. Jason Licht has done a fantastic job, but it's time to take some risks and go fill out the defense, spend some money. And he was like there sitting on the side or standing on the sideline, looking a little dejected, a little lost. Like, where did we go wrong? Obviously, injuries, you can't help that stuff, but it feels like this team has a ceiling of like really not making it far in the playoffs. And we're not in the elite status. Like, we can have some good wins throughout the year, but we have a more of a tendency to lose to the great teams than to beat them. And we all know you have to beat multiple great teams in the playoffs in order to win it all. So that's kind of where the Bucs don't feel like they're there yet. And I thought they were at the beginning of the year, but I was wrong. And so I think Jason probably takes some blame on this for sure. this is also interesting. Joshua Quippo from Pure Report said, Todd Bowles said over the offseason he needed his defense to affect the passer with a four-man rush. With a four-man rush more. Tampa Bay's pressure rate Tampa Bay's pressure rate when rushing four has dropped from 34.4% when Reddick played to 26.9% over the past 4 games without him. Their sack rate in those situations has similarly declined from 7.6% to 5.8%. The team should get Reddick back at some point. That should lift the defense. But Jason Licht has to continue to look for avenues to upgrade the top end of the pass rush, as Reddick is only getting older and not at the peak of his powers anymore. I think all of these things are really, really interesting. That, listen, Jason is amazing. Do not get me wrong. But at the same time, his judgment in in-house picking and constantly developing guys from the draft and not really trusting to bring in guys from the outside because of a culture thing, or just he doesn't find the value in most trade stuff. Risks are part of being between a good GM and a great GM, and I think he is a great GM, but with massive detractors like the lack of wanting to risk some things. Like the Rams, they went out and got Davante Adams. They let go of Cooper Kupp and got Davante Adams, and that's worked out wonderfully for them. They trade, they make a whole bunch of just moves in general, and it feels like Jason just kind of drafts all his guys and then crosses his fingers and hopes for the best. There's the practice squad stuff, but every team does that. So, and none of those guys have really panned out to be a super sneaky pickup or anything like that. So it's not enough. And I don't mean to be so straightforward with it, but I think people are starting to notice that we don't have the Cats for a late playoff push because of just this inability to really take any risks, and it's getting frustrating to say the least. And then Bailey Adams from Pure Report said that another NFC South title, while nice considering the long drought without one from 2008 to 2020, is starting to feel more and more like the ceiling for this year's team. There was a time where it all felt so different. It looked like there was a chance for this to be a special type of season, but the Lions, Patriots, Bills, and Rams have shown that this Bucs team, just isn't on that next level this year. Instead, it very well could be the same old story under Bowles, and that's winning a weak NFC South and suffering an early exit from the playoffs. Harsh but true. Real Bucs Talk said, let's also look at the top. Huge fan of Jason Licht, but how many times a year after year can you neglect an edge rusher or apply urgency to improve it? Being a GM, I understand being a GM is hard. I understand looking at it now and future, but there has been nothing towards that room. Sorry, I was butchering that a bit, but the point still remains that when there's a clear lack of production in an area, and to do nothing with it, especially when you're hurting on a lot of sides of the ball, it feels a bit arrogant. I don't want to go too crazy with the just what I'm saying, but you can only draft perfectly so many times. At some point, it is better to go get a guy that is great. So I'm still waiting for just a matter of just the move that will really shut me up. You don't have to go get on Max Crosby or Hendrickson or whatever. We talked about a lot more cheaper options and lower round picks, but it feels like he just doesn't want to trade any of those away because he loves drafting. He loves that process. And I trust that room, don't get me wrong, but look, we haven't drafted an elite pass rusher in so long. We've only picked them up from elsewhere. So that's clearly just an area that maybe they feel really good about David Walker. I'm sure they do, but the injury is definitely going to derail his development. Even if he is a really good pass rusher, ends up being one next year, I doubt he'll be what we need in the next few years. So he's solid, but in the end, I don't think he's like a big time starter. It's just frustrating. He has, there's so many pass rushers that are good at like getting off the edge, and they're good listeners, they're good teammates, but it's just frustrating that our defense in primetime always gets shellacked like this. They get completely outcoached, outmanned, out everything, out physicaled, out schemed. It's disconcerting. Now obviously the offense wasn't great either. Baker got hurt though. The difference between greatness and just being solid is not wanting to take risks. Look at what the Bengals are right now. I'm not saying the Buccaneers are the Bengals, but they do not manage things well. And that's obviously an example of a really poorly run organization, but they're wasting the prime of a brilliantly talented quarterback. Now, Joe Burrow also gets hurt quite often. That's a different story. But they have some all-time talent, and it feels like they want to do nothing to help. Not taking risks that's not the business you want to be in if you're going to be an NFL GM. And so this is my call. Obviously I doubt, Jason would listen to this, but at the same time, I want people to maybe start raising their awareness of this and be a bit more outspoken about it. No, I would never call for Jason's job. That'd be a ridiculous. Sorry, he has that job for as long as he wants it, but I don't know. At least put some pressure on to make it seem like we are noticing where the gaps are. We're noticing where things are not being done, and we want better. We want more. We feel like we're in a window right now. Now, you can argue that because of the coach. We talked about the coach in another video, and now I'm bringing up Jason because I do think this is a really good duo. They like each other a lot. They built a really good culture here in Tampa, but we're not there yet. We're not at the level we need to be, and this feels like one of the bigger reasons that we're not. We could have gotten linebacking help for a low pick, and we didn't. We could have gotten some kind of help. Look what they got. The Eagles got Phillips, and he's immediately having an impact for them. I don't know. It's frustrating. I don't know what else to say. There's just a lot of frustration boiling over. It would be really nice if the Bucs get a win this weekend over the Cardinals. They're a scrappy team. It wouldn't surprise me if we, put out another dud, but the losing streak has to end at some point. Panthers, put up a stinker against the Niners last night, and so they gifted us with keeping the NFC South crown for at least another week, but we'll see. And they'll be facing the Rams. So it's a just weird time. Vibes were so high before the Lions game, and now we're here where it's like, man, all the good teams that we face, we lose to. We did beat the Niners, we beat the Seahawks, we beat the Texans. Those were all good wins. But it's just, you go on a losing streak like this, you haven't won in a month, you start to wonder a bit. But anyway, I want to ask you guys, what do you think about this? What do you think about Jason? Am I being too harsh? Am I not being harsh enough? What do you think? What move do you want to see the Bucs do? I mean, clearly they can't do anything now that the trade deadline is passed, but what move would you like to see them make that would, really improve things? Or do you just trust the draft process? That's totally fine as well. These are all valid opinions, obviously. But I'll check the comments, see what you guys think, and I'll see you in the next video.